This isn't Hiroshima or Nagasaki. The US started this a year after World War II ended. Not on enemy grounds, but on US-controlled soil.
Have you ever dreamed of living an idyllic existence under the waving coconut palms of a remote South Sea island? Of course you have. There are only 167 human beings here, 60 of them children. They are a gentle and lovable people.
In 1946, these gentle and lovable people who live on the Bikini Atoll of the Marshall Islands were politely told by the US Army that the US is going to turn their paradise into hell.
The Marshall Islands is where the nuclear age began, where something like the equivalent of one Hiroshima every day was exploded in the Marshall Islands for 12 years.
This was not just a nuclear experiment, it was a human experiment.
The United States needed some guinea pigs to study what the effects of radiation would do.
To the AEC Argonne Labs in Chicago last week came 7 men, natives of the Marshall Islands. John is mayor of Rungala, which is 100 miles from Bikini. He and the rest were irradiated by our March 1954 hydrogen bomb test. John, as we said, is a savage, but a happy, amenable savage.
This happy and amenable savage, as he was referred to, lost his son to leukemia. Many other children also died of leukemia, and other residents developed thyroid tumors due to exposure to radiation. They begged for international help. The world reacted by celebrating their demise with a new style of swimsuits named bikini, after the destroyed Bikini Atoll.
Some of our people were injected with or coerced to drink fluids laced with radiation. Other experimentation involved the purposeful and premature resettlement of people on islands highly contaminated by weapons tests to study how human beings absorb radiation from their foods and environment.
Thousands of natives were exposed to radiation, with many developing serious illnesses or dying from them.
Over the years, the number and the yield of weapons tested have rapidly increased, and so have the radioactive hazards from such testing. The number of children and grandchildren with cancer in their bones, with leukemia in their blood, or with poison in their lungs, this is not a natural health hazard. The malformation of even one baby, who may be born long after all of us have gone, should be of concern to us all.
US soldiers were also exposed to harmful radiation.
My country, the United States, has done bad things. There is a long, long history of bad choices, bad wars, and basically military-industrial-led bad choices.
By the time the Cold War had ended and the nuclear arms race lost its momentum, the US had amassed huge amounts of radioactive waste, depleted uranium. But where others saw an unusable waste product, Washington decided to put its uranium to use.
Battlefields and fighting are by nature hazardous to your health. Some hazards are easy to identify and well understood. However, some lesser hazards from new technological applications are not so well known and recognized. One of these newer applications is the use of depleted uranium in munitions and equipment armor.
To nije samo osiromašeni uranijum, to je nuklearni otpad.
Depleted uranium is radioactive waste left over from uranium enrichment for nuclear weapons and fuel rods.
Znači, to je nuklearni otpad koji se stavlja u oružje da bi oružje imalo veću probojnu moć. Drugi aspekt je ekonomski aspekt.
Some of the low-level nuclear waste needs to be deposited somewhere.
Ne moraju da skladište svoj nuklearni otpad, nego ga stavljaju u oružje i na taj način ga seju po celom svetu. Skladištenje nuklearnog otpada košta.
Depleted uranium was widely used in tank and cannon ammunitions for the first time ever in 1991, during the Gulf War in Iraq and Kuwait. Upon returning home, many US veterans started feeling strange. This was labeled by the government as the Gulf War Syndrome.
A number of U.S. soldiers returning from Iraq have been suffering from a variety of cancers and mysterious illnesses. Some of them think they've been made sick by depleted uranium used in weapons by American troops.
And U.S. soldiers weren't the only ones who suffered.
Hundreds of Iraqis living near the battlefields have died from mysterious cancers. Deformed children have been born to Iraqi soldiers who fought in the war.
Just before the war, the Gulf War, we studied only 3 or 4 mortalities in a month. And now we are studying 30 or 35 patients dying in our department each month. It is an epidemic, and it is like the Hiroshima's tragedy.
As in Hiroshima, increased percentage of congenital malformation, increase of a tumor, of malignancy, leukemia, brain tumor, also in our society increase in this percentage.
In 1992, the U.S. Army Environmental Policy Institute, or AEPI, was ordered by the Assistant Secretary of the Army to find a way to reduce the toxicity of depleted uranium ammunitions. In 1995, the AEPI published the results of its investigation. The report concluded that if depleted uranium enters the body, it has the potential to generate significant medical consequences. It talked about the risks of radiation-induced cancer and genetic effects, and how uranium concentrates in the bone, kidney, and liver. Even though it concluded that depleted uranium is inherently toxic, only 2 months after the report was published, the U.S. used depleted uranium munitions during NATO's bombing of Bosnia and Herzegovina. For almost a month, NATO forces pounded Serbian targets in what they called an attempt to bring peace to Bosnia. One of the targets was a military factory in the town of Hadžići, just 10 kilometers from the capital, Sarajevo. In 2001, an Italian freelance journalist found 3 30mm bullets on this compound, depleted uranium bullets.
Najdrastičniji je primjer stanovnika Hadžića koji su prema ispitivanjima instituta u Vinči bili izloženi radijaciji 2000 puta većoj od dozvoljene.
Svi njihovi raspadni produkti osiromašenog uranijuma nalaze se na listi kancerogenih supstanci Svetske zdravstvene organizacije.
Od 1995. godine prema 2000. godini imamo naglo povećani broj malignih obolenja. 4 puta više je oboljevalo stanovništvo istočnog Sarajeva od malignih obolenja.
NATO's investigation publicly presented a different story.
All the research that we've seen shows no link between depleted uranium and leukemia or cancer. The team used radiological monitoring devices and detected low levels of radiation.
Right.